السجن أما أحدكما فيسقي ربه خمرا وأما الآخر فيسلب فتأكل الطير من رأسه قضي الأمر الذي فيه تستفتيان. صدق الله العظيم. Two young men had gone to prison with Yusuf, Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. One of them said, I dreamt I was pressing wine from grapes. The other said, I dreamt I was carrying bread on my head and birds were eating from it. Then they pleaded to Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, tell us his explanation. We see you as someone who does good. Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, he replied, any food that usually comes to you, I will tell you the explanation of these dreams before that food even comes to you. This is some of what my Lord has taught me. I have kept myself away from the religion of any people who don't believe in Allah, who disbelieve in the hereafter too. I follow the religion of my forefathers, Ibrahim, Ishaq, and Yaqub. We have no right to make anything a partner God with Allah. This is from Allah's grace upon us and upon all the people, yet most people don't give thanks. My two fellow prisoners, who is better? Many separate gods who disagree with each other, or Allah, the one, the dominant over them all? What you worship besides Him are only names that you and your forefathers have made up, for which Allah hasn't sent down any permission. Judgment is only Allah's. He has ordered that you mustn't worship anyone except Him. This is the correct religion, yet most people don't know. My two fellow prisoners, one of you will serve wine to his king, and the other will be crucified, and birds will eat from his head. The matter you are asking about has already been settled. Now, going into ayat number 37, with regards to the ayat 36, Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam is now in prison, and two other young men have entered the prison with him. They've had a dream. Each had a separate dream. One had a dream that he was pressing wine from grapes, and the other had a dream that he was carrying bread and birds were eating from that bread that he was carrying on his head. And they wanted interpretation from Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam because they knew by now that Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam could interpret dreams. Now, Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, he assured them that he would interpret their dreams for them before their food arrives. This could possibly refer to the fact that their food was given to them on time. It was a specific type of food that was given to the prisoners, and food was about to arrive. And Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam said, well, we have enough time, and I'm going to explain it to you before your food arrives. Yet, but before that, I have something else to tell you. Now, this food, it could refer to their daily meal, or it could even allude to what they saw in their dreams. Meaning, the wine, it was a type of food. It is a type of food, though it is haram, but uh, it is used as food by some. And the other is bread. So it could be alluding to that before whatever you have seen, even it becomes actualized as events in your lives. I can tell you the interpretation of that. But most scholars have said that the first interpretation is more appropriate, meaning that before your daily meal that you receive in prison, before that comes to you, I will tell you the interpretation of the dreams that you have had. So in this ayah, the word ta'am has been used, and ta'am refers to meal, diet, and also general food. And then we have the word turzaqanihi, which is referring to two people being given rizq, being given food. This is a dual and it is passive. Those who are studying Arabic grammar will understand this better. That you two are given food. So what you two are provided before it even comes to you, I will interpret these dreams to you. Now, interpreting dreams is not something that we can just pick up and learn about. It's not based on conjecture, it is not based on guesswork. In fact, it is a special skill. And Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam was given this skill by his Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is why he mentions this specifically in this particular ayah. And he says, Allamani, coming from the Ismul Masdar Ta'aleem. We use the word Ta'aleem in Urdu as well, which means education, but Ta'aleem in Arabic means to give knowledge. So allamani means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught it to me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me knowledge of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has instructed to me or informed me of the interpretation of dreams and explaining them. And then he mentions, subhanallah, before interpreting the dreams, inni taraktu, I have left. And I'm going to mention it. Inni taraktu millata qawmin la yu'minuna billahi wa hum bil akhirati hum kafirun. Now, Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam is mentioning specifically the people that he is surrounded by, or he was surrounded by in that palace. He says that I have left them, meaning I have nothing to do with those people who do shirk, those people who do not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those people who reject the akhirah, who reject Yawm al-Qiyamah. So prior to interpreting the dreams of these two young men, Prophet Yusuf al-Islam took the opportunity to give them a short discourse on the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Amazing. Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, he is in prison and he's now taken an opportunity, a wonderful opportunity to teach Tawheed and the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to teach about true beliefs, to teach about our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, also to teach about the final day, Yawm al-Qiyamah, Yawm al-Hisab, to these young people in the prison, because now he knows that they have his full he has their full attention and he can speak to them and they are ready to listen to the interpretation of the dreams, so they must be even more prepared to listen to whatever he has to say before that. So he takes this opportunity and he speaks on the non-ascription of partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's speaking against shirk, he's speaking pro tawheed, and he speaks against those who disbelieved in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he speaks against those who reject the hereafter, who reject the akhirah. By this, Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, he urges them, even though it is indirect, he urges them to leave their false beliefs in shirk and other matters which are not acceptable, and that they must believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This also shows that Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam was not influenced by the religion of the people of Egypt. He lived with them for quite a long time, but he did not adopt their beliefs. He stuck to Tawheed, to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the religion and the faith of the people of Egypt was polytheism, and materialism was at its core. In this ayah, the word millah has been used, which refers to, in this particular ayah, it refers to religion, faith. The word kafirun, its singular is kafir, which we generally translate as disbeliever. Literally, it means to cover. So to cover up the truth, this is what they do. Or the truth is covered up for them, or they have covered up the truth. They have not used their aql, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to everyone. Intellect, aql, the power of discernment between right and wrong. So the truth is covered for them because they have chosen to cover it. So a kafir is one who covers the truth. It also refers to being ungrateful, such as we use the words or the statement kufranu ni'mah, someone who rejects the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being ungrateful to him. And also, like we mentioned, kufr means to disbelieve. In the next ayah, number 38, Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, he then describes his own beliefs. First, he is speaking against those people who have rejected belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who disbelieve in the akhirah. And now in this ayah, in ayah 38, he's speaking about his own beliefs. And he mentioned that they are nothing new. His beliefs are not something that he has made up, because they are the beliefs of those people who came before him, and such as his forefathers, and he mentions them by name. Prophet Ismail, Ibrahim alayhi salam, Ismail alayhi salam, Ishaq alayhi salam. Subhanallah, how amazing that Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam is gone through so many trials and tribulations, yet he never mentioned which tribe or ancestry he belonged to. Not once did he mention that. This is the first time he's mentioning which family he comes from. And this is the first occasion when he's mentioning the names of these people. This is also mentioned in the Quran. Furthermore, when he mentioned these names, he did not even mention that he himself was a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He mentions that these are the beliefs of his forefathers, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, Ishaq alayhi salam, Yaqub alayhi salam. But not once does he mention that he himself is a prophet. And then he says the word ittaba'atu. This comes from the Ism al-Masdar ittiba, which we use in Urdu as well. And both words, their root letters are ta, ba, and ain, tabi'a, which means to follow, to come after something, to pursue. So he is saying that I have followed and I pursue the religion of my forefathers. He mentioned now to his fellow prisoners the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is doing tabligh to them. And he also mentioned that his forefathers had the same beliefs, and that they all, and he himself, avoided polytheism in all its aspects, and that everyone should avoid polytheism because it is the worst of crimes. This now also rejects superstition, to which some might apply dreams, that dreams are superstition, that when a dream happens and it comes true, so this is based on magic or based on sorcery or just beliefs of those people who are stuck in superstition. So he is indirectly explaining to them that whatever dreams that you have had, I'm going to explain them to you, but these are all based on what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught me. That's the explanation I'm going to give to you. So it's not superstition at all. The word mushrik is mentioned, which refers to shirk, and it means to give a share to someone or something, to give a share. Now, how does mushrik, polytheism, if we translate as polytheism, how does that refer to giving a share? Now, those people who give a share of what is rightfully Allah's, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one who should be believed in as a creator, he's the only one who should be worshipped. And all the attributes that are specific to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala must not be shared with anyone or anything else. None of the created beings can share any of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that are specific to him. So the word mushrik is it actually means someone who gives a share that is rightfully Allah, that belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they give it out to others. So shirk means to give a share and to associate, and it, like I mentioned, refers to polytheism, associating others with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any form whatsoever. And then he mentions Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, ذَلِكَ مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا وَعَلَى النَّاسِ. He's saying that this is grace that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us and upon all the people. And then he says, but most people don't give thanks. So we all understand that shukr is the opposite of kufr. If kufr is being ungrateful, then shukr is being grateful, expressing gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is a huge favor, believing in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is such a huge privilege. It's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that most people, they don't even give thanks for it. They don't even thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't turn to him. And thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala includes many things, including worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and following his commands and obeying him. The word fadl actually means favor, grace, and here it refers to guidance, it refers to the truth, it also refers to belief in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In ayah number 39, subhanallah, Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam addresses his fellow prisoners in a beautiful manner, in a wonderful manner. He does not treat them as some people who are different, even though they might not be believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He addresses them by saying to them, Ya sahiba sijni, my two fellow prisoners, my two fellow prisoners. Oh, you and I, we are all here together. So we have this common factor between us, that we are prisoners here. So he uses this term, Ya sahiba sijni, my two friends in the prison, meaning our relationship is of the prison. So this gives a personal touch. It gives a personal touch. It places Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, and this is how he addressed them, on their level. Not that I am superior to you or anything. He is now humbling himself, saying that I'm just like you, except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught me things that I'm going to teach you now. So he places himself on their level, not above them, as fellows in prison. So this is their relationship, the relationship of being in prison. He then asks them, which is better? The many gods all disagreeing with each other, or having mutually independent roles are better, or the one true Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the dominant, who gives rain, who gives food, who gives children, healing, and everything else. So he's asking them this question. You know, all these different gods and having different powers or sharing power in between themselves, when there's always the potential for disagreement as well. Worshipping them, is that better, or is it better to worship just one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He's the one who is in charge of everything. He gives everything, he manages everything, he does not need any helpers in this regard. So it is the people, he mentions to them, it is the people who have divided this universe as belonging to many gods. This is what the people have done. And for every kind of energy, a different god is responsible. These are the beliefs of those who commit shirk, polytheism, associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he mentions, whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God, is the only one and to whom we must all turn. He is the one we must worship, he is the one we must believe in, and he is the one we must turn to. The word arbab is used in this ayah, which is plural of the word Rabb, which among other meanings, it also means lords, gods. And the word mutafarriqun, which is plural, its singular is mutafarriq, which comes from the ismul masdar tafarruq. It means separate, diverse, several, scattered, different, various. So all different, having different responsibilities. Are they better, or just one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has all these responsibilities and he carries them out on his own? In ayah number 40, Prophet Yusuf al-Islam explains to the two prisoners that what you and the other polytheists are worshipping as shirk are only things that you and your forefathers have given names to. There is no reality to them as in the status of divinity. They do not deserve to be worshipped. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not allow this, and He has not permitted this, and that we should follow the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and worship only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then He mentions to them, the faith that I follow is that which is based on evidence and clear proofs. It is the only one true faith, and anything else is completely false. So, in other words, Prophet Yusuf al-Islam is rejecting pluralism in religion, and he is telling them that what other people believe, all the different gods and idols and different forms of worship and different, that is all incorrect. It is wrong. If you really must believe, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we must all believe in, and everything else is false. So these are the facts, but most people don't know, or most people are not aware of them because they do not use their aql when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given it to them. And that is the reason why they are astray. This was a very brief sermon delivered by Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. It was his first sermon delivered to them, and he preaches the true faith in prison to them in this particular manner. A very short message, to the point, making them aware that your beliefs are different, my beliefs are different. I'm taking this opportunity to tell you about the true belief, about the true Lord, about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this teaches us to take opportunities to teach and give knowledge whenever the opportunity arises, regardless of the situation, regardless of the time, regardless of the place. But we must always be mindful of our surroundings. This also reminds us of placing our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before anything else. Now, sometimes people, they might, as in terms of mockery, they could say, well, if you people believe you are on the truth, then why is God not helping you? Why are you in such a difficult position? Why are you people suffering when you say that God is with you, that you are on the right path? And the story of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam gives us a beautiful example of this. That if Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, of course, he is correct, he is right, but if they are asked, these people are asking questions from the right, correct, and accurate believers in Tawheed, then it applies to Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam as well, because he was upon Tawheed. He was a Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet he was thrown into the well. Yet he was put into prison. People could say, what, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to help him, he could have. Of course, of course. But how do we learn from the stories of these prophets if they do not suffer difficulties so that we can learn from them? In this ayah, the word sammaytum has been used, coming from the word, from the Ism al-Masdar tasmiyah. It means to give a name to something, to call something, to designate something. The word sultan has also been used here. Sultan means authority, and sultan also means permission. The word hukum has been used, which among the various meanings includes the meaning judgment, it includes wisdom, it includes the ability to make a decision. That is hukum. Amara means to give a command, to give an order, to give instructions. And the word al-qayyim means straight, which is mentioned ذلك الدين القيم. ذلك الدين القيم. This is the correct religion. And al-qayyim means to be straight, to be right, to be firm. And then in ayah number 41, after having fulfilled his duty as prophet, subhanallah, prophet giving uh, news of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, tawheed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to these people. After that, he begins to address them with the word, and again he addresses them with the words of friendship. Ya sahiba yisijn. So he starts off the khutbah, the sermon, with regard to tabligh, fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fear of akhirah, using the words Ya Sahib Sijn, addressing his two fellow prisoners. And then, when he has concluded that, he then begins to interpret their dreams. Again, he uses the same words Ya Sahib Sijn. So, like I mentioned, this gives a personal touch, telling them, look, we are the same as far as we are prisoners. So don't think of me as something lofty, something high, something elevated. I'm going to tell you something. We are of the same level. Now, this helps the listener to listen, that this person who is talking to me, he's on my level. He can relate to me, I can relate to him. So it's easier for me to listen to him and understand what he is saying. So Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, he begins telling them about the explanation of their dream. Ya sahib bisijn, and this time he is going to interpret their dreams for them. The chief of the king's court, he is one of the prisoners. The chief of the king's court will be saved and restored to his former position. He is the one who saw the dream that he was pressing grapes and turning them into wine. So he will be reinstated and he will serve wine to his king. As for the other one, the baker, the one who saw in his dream that he was carrying bread on his head and birds were eating from it, that baker will be killed. He will be crucified. He will be executed. So he will be crucified, and birds will peck at his head and eat from it. So the word yasqi is used, which means to give water to someone, to give someone something to drink. The word yuslab is mentioned as well with regards to the baker. It comes from the root letters Sad, Lam, Ba, pronounced Saluba, also Saliba, and its Ismul Masdar is Salaba. It means to become hard, to become stiff. However, in this particular context, Salaba Yaslibu Salb means to crucify, that you will be crucified. The word Salib that is used in Arabic and in Urdu, it comes from these same root letters, Sad, Lam, and Ba, and the word Salib means crucifix. The word Qudiya is used as well. As something is already settled, it means to be settled, which is fi'l madi majhul, those of you who are studying Arabic. So it means to be settled, to be discharged, to be decreed, to be concluded. So it has already been concluded. Tastaftiyan is another word that is used here. Its ismul masdar is istifta. And this is a word that is used when someone is seeking a fatwa on any religious matter. When they're seeking a fatwa, it is called that he is doing istifta. So the word istifta in Arabic, it means to seek an opinion, to seek a ruling, to seek information. Now it is said that the two prisoners, this is after interpreting the dreams of these two prisoners, it is said that these two prisoners, they did not like the interpretation, which is why Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam then said to them, قُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ الَّذِي فِيهِ تَسْتَفْتِيَانِ, that the matter you are asking about, it's already been settled. So, Allahu Alam. This is mentioned by Imam Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, that the two fellow prisoners, they did not agree to the interpretation of the dream that they were given. So Prophet Yusuf alayhi said to them, listen, whatever I've told you, it's going to be like that, whether you like it or not. This is the interpretation of the dreams that you have had. Later, what Prophet Yusuf alayhi had said, it transpired. It happened exactly as he had said to them. Then we move on to the next ayah, which is ayah number 42. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وقال للذي ظن أنه ناج منهما اذكرني عند ربك فأنساه الشيطان ذكر ربه ولبث في السجن بضع سنين. صدق الله العظيم. Of the two, Yusuf said to the one he was sure would be released, that is the one who saw in his dream that he was pressing grapes, said to him, tell your master about me. But what happened is, when this person was released, Shaitan made him forget mentioning Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam to his master, the king. And so Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, he remained in prison for many years. So Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam wanted this person, this prisoner who was going to be released, that when you are released, tell your master about me, tell him about me, that I've been falsely imprisoned. I just need this matter to be settled. Nevertheless, um, this person, this fellow prisoner who was released, he forgot. He forgot, and it is mentioned that it was Shaitan who made him forget, and because of that, Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, he continued to remain in prison for many years. So Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, he said to the one who he was sure that he would be released, the chief of the king's court, mention me to your king. The word zanna is used. Generally, zanna is used for uncertainty, but sometimes it can be used for certainty. In this context, it's used for certainty, meaning he was sure. And this could refer to Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam being sure that this other person is going to be released, or it could refer to the other person that he was certain that he's going to be released because he now believes in what Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam had told him. However, Shaitan caused him to forget mentioning Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam to the king. And it is because of that that Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam remained in prison for several years. The word udhkur, udhkurni is mentioned in this ayah, which means you must mention me. You must mention me or tell about me. So Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam did not ask to be released. He did not ask to be released. All asked was he merely suggested to the chief of the king's court, the one who was going to be released, to introduce Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam to the king, as this person who is about to be released will have close contact with the king. That's all he asked. Just mention me to him. He's not asking to be released. He's just asking that he should be mentioned to the king. Now, the scholars have mentioned and they have stated that um, this mentioning to the king would include three things. Number one, the virtuous character of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. He's in prison, yet he's the most virtuous of all people. Other criminals are there because they are criminals, but Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam is there because of a false accusation. Secondly, monotheism, as mentioned by Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. And thirdly, the knowledge that Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam had been given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on dream interpretation. So they would include all these three when he will be mentioned to the king. The word ansa is used ansahu. It means to make someone or something forget. So ansahu ash-shaytanu, shaitan made him forget. To forget of yourself is nasiya, to forget. And ansa means to make someone or to make something forget. The word labitha is used, and labitha means to stay or to remain. This word is also used in the words of the Hadith Jibreel alayhi salam that we mentioned in our hadith classes a few weeks ago. That Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he was sitting there when this person came, and then when he had left, Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu mentioned that I remained there, I stayed there, meaning I did not go running after this person. Although some interpretations have said that Prophet Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu actually went to the door to see which way that person went. Anyhow, the word labitha means to stay in a place, to remain in that particular place. Now, the word bid'a sinin is plural and it means years, and bid'a, ba, dad, ain. It refers to any number between 3 and 9. This is according to Imam Ibn Jarir. Any number between 3 and 9. So Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, he remained in prison even after that other prisoner was released. He remained in prison between 3 years to 9 years. Allahu alam, Allah knows best. And then we move on to ayah number 43. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وقال الملك إني أرى سبع بقرات سمان يأكلهن سبع عجاف وسبع سنبلات خضر وأخر يابسات يا أيها الملأ أفتوني في رؤياي إن كنتم للرؤيا تعبرون قالوا أضغاث أحلام وما نحن بتأويل الأحلام بعالمين وقال الذي نجا منهما وادكر بعد أمة أنا أنبئكم بتأويله فأرسلون. One day the king said, now this is when that other prisoner had been released and the king had set up his court and all the people were there, and this prisoner was released, was also there as well. The king, he brought them all together and he said in his court, I had a dream. I dreamt of 7 thin cows eating 7 fat ones, and of 7 green ears of corn and 7 others dry. Ministers, tell me the meaning of my dream if you know how to explain dreams. They replied, this is a confused mixture of dreams, and we don't know how to explain dreams. Then 2 of the prisoners, the one who had been released and now remembered his promise to Yusuf alayhi salam after a long period of time, said, I will tell you how to explain it, so send me out. Send me out referring to to the prison. Send me to the prison. So he remembered then about Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, because he knew that Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam can interpret dreams. He had interpreted his own dream and it came true. And now the king has had a dream and no one can uh, explain it. And this person who was released, the chief of the king's court, then he remembered Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, subhanallah, and he mentioned him to the king. This happened after many years. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He creates causes and effects. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to have Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam released from prison, He created a cause. And Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam was known to interpret dreams. He created a cause, and that cause was making the king have a dream such that no one can interpret. And it is said that the king, his name was Malik ibn Rayyan. Allah knows best. However, no one could interpret this dream, so the king asked his experts and scholars, look, I've had this dream, I don't understand it. He asked his experts and scholars, the wise men, noble people, astrologers, soothsayers, all the clever people, but they all lacked the quality and skill to interpret this dream. The king then said to his courtiers that he had a dream in which he saw 7 thin cows eating 7 fat cows. He also saw 7 fresh ears of grain and 7 dry ears of grain. The courtiers claimed to know the interpretation of dreams, but this particular dream was different. So some of them could interpret dreams, others could not. Those who could, even they could not interpret this particular dream. The word ara, wahid mutakallim, means I saw. So ra'a, ru'ya means to see a dream. The word siman is plural for the word samin, which means fat, obese. The word ajaf is singular, it is plural, and its singular is ajif, which means thin, slender, lean. The word sumbulat is mentioned, which is the plural for sumbula, meaning ears of grain. The word mala is used here, which means ministers, courtiers, nobles, chiefs, the elite of the society. Aftu, coming from the same root letters as istifta. Aftu means you tell me, it's a command. You tell me, give me advice. So it's an order to give advice. This is connected to the word fata. Fata means a youthful person. So a young person is someone who lacks discernment and he needs mature people to guide him. So this is where the word fatwa comes from, treating others not in a physical or practical sense, but people who don't know, they ask those people who do know. Just like youngsters who don't know, they will ask the mature people. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask those people who know if you yourselves don't know. It's a command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The word ta'burun is mentioned, إِن كُنتُمْ لِلرُّؤْيَا تَعْبُرُونَ. If you know how to explain dreams. So ta'burun, its ismul masdar is abr, ubur, and ibara. You interpret, you explain, you traverse, you cross over. So the word ubur means to cross over from one side to the other. So the word ta'burun would be used in that sense as well, like crossing over a bridge or crossing over from point A to point B. So we use this in various contexts. The word ibara is an ism al-masdar of ta'burun as well, which is writing, which starts from one point to another point. So that is ibara. So ta'burun, ubur. Then the courtier said, this is not actually a dream. Even if it is a dream, we cannot interpret it. And but we don't think it is a dream, but a mixture of worried thoughts. And it belongs to the category of mixed and false dreams. And these stem from the internal chatter of the soul or from demonic inspiration, meaning the shaitan is making you think of these. They're not actually dreams, they are just wild thoughts. So the word adghath is used. Its singular is dikh, means a bunch of flowers, a mixture of grass or a mixture of wood. In other words, it's a mixture of all sorts of things. The word dikh also means a maze and things that are confusing. So confusion has occurred within you, O King, Your Majesty, and these are not dreams, and even if they are dreams, then we cannot interpret them. The word ahlam is used for dreams here, and it refers to disturbed thoughts a person has while sleeping, though they are not connected to reality. This is according to Imam al-Asfahani in his Al-Mufradat. So these people, the courtiers, the nobles, the elite of society, they said that they could not interpret this particular dream. This could refer to their inability to interpret dreams or false dreams in particular, or to their inability to interpret dreams in general. However, Prophet Yusuf al-Islam was able to interpret it, and this is mentioned in ayahs number 47 to 49, to which we shall come inshallah. So the word ta'wil is used, which means interpretation, explanation. In next ayah, number 45, it was then, at that moment, the chief of the king's court, the one who saw in his dream that he was pressing grapes and turning them into wine. And he told that dream to Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, and he was then subsequently released based upon the truth of that dream. And he had been released from prison, and he remembered Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam after so long. After such a long time, he remembered, oh yes, I know someone who can interpret dreams. So he said to the king, I will tell you its interpretation, send me out to the prison. So it seems that the plan of this particular person was to go to the prison, tell this dream to Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, get its interpretation explanation from Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, and then come back and tell the king about what he had learned from Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam with regards to the interpretation of this particular dream. So iddakara is a word that is used to remember, to recall. So iddakara is originally idtakara. Originally it is idtakara. Rules have been applied here, and it ends up as iddakara. And then the word ba'da ummatin is used. Now, ummah has several meanings. In this particular context, it means a long time. It means a long time. And according to some exegetes, mufassirun, this could have been possibly 7 years. 7 years. So, bid'ah sinin is 3 to 9 years. So, if it's 7 years, then that is plausible because 7 comes within 3 and 9. So the chief of the king's court sought the king's permission to visit Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam in prison to have the dream interpreted. So he was allowed to go to the prison to see Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Yusufu ayyuha siddiqu أفتنا في 7 بقرات سمان يأكلهن 7 عجاف وسبع سنبلات خضر وأخر يابسات لعلي أرجع إلى الناس لعلهم يعلمون قال تزرعون 7 سنين دأبا فما حصدتم فذروه في سنبله إلا قليلا مما تأكلون ثم يأتي من بعد ذلك 7 شداد يأكلن ما قدمتم لهن إلا قليلا مما تحصنون ثم يأتي من بعد ذلك عام فيه يغاث الناس وفيه يعصرون. So this person, the chief of the king's court, he was allowed to go to prison and see Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. So he came to prison and met Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, and he said to him, Yusuf, O man of truth, tell us the meaning of 7 thin cows eating 7 fat ones, and of 7 green ears of corn and 7 others dry, so that I can go back to the people with your explanation and they might realize your value. Prophet Yusuf Islam replied, you will grow 7 crops for 7 years as usual, and you will leave the seeds in the ears of whatever you harvest, except for a little amount which you will eat. Then after that there will come 7 difficult years which will make you eat up what you will have invested for them, except for a little amount which you will save. Then after that there will come a year in which the people will have lots of rain and in which they will press juice from fruits. So Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam has been told this dream by that fellow prisoner who was released and who was serving as the chief of the king's court. The chief of the king's court, now, he came to Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam and he asked him the interpretation of the king's dream. He addressed Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam by saying, As-Siddiq, Yusuf, Ayyuha Siddiq, O Yusuf, O very truthful person. Why did he use this particular title for Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam? Because he was very much influenced by the lofty and noble character of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam from his own days in prison with him. This might also refer to him never having seen Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam tell a lie. Was Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam? Of course, he was truthful. It could also refer to the true interpretation of his own dream that Prophet Yusuf alayhi made many years ago. So he asked, describing the dream and most likely also mentioning the lack of skill among the experts in the king's court in interpreting it. So when he mentioned this particular dream to Prophet Yusuf alayhi asking him to interpret it, he might have it is very likely mentioned that all the noble people and all the elite and all the intellectuals in the king's court, they came together and they could not interpret this dream. So you interpret it for us. He also mentioned to Prophet Yusuf that he would return to the king and to the people with the response, and that they might realize the true rank of Prophet Yusuf the knowledge and value of Prophet Yusuf which could lead to Prophet Yusuf being released from prison. Again, Prophet Yusuf did not ask to be released. Prophet Yusuf did not scorn him either, nor express any ill towards him for forgetting to mention him to the king. Now, this person had promised that I will mention you to the king when I am released, but he didn't. So for many years, Prophet Yusuf continued to remain in the prison. When this person went back to Prophet Yusuf asking for interpretation of the king's dream, Prophet Yusuf welcomed him warmly. He did not scold him, he did not tell him off, he did not express any anger or disappointment in that former fellow prisoner for forgetting to mention him to the king. He did not even make any condition before interpreting the dream. People could do that. They could say, right, okay, can you make this, can you do this favor for me or that? This is my condition. What can you do for me? Prophet Yusuf did not make any condition before interpreting the king's dream, as he could have even asked for immediate release, that let me be released first and then I will. He did not even say that. So Prophet Yusuf he gladly explained the meaning of the dream that the king had, that it indicated an impending agricultural crisis in the land. Egypt was a land of plenty. It had a lot of crops, and people flourished and progressed, and there was no poverty, technically speaking, outside Egypt, maybe. But Prophet Yusuf salam, he told them that there is going to come a time when there is going to be no crops. Agriculture is going to suffer, the people will suffer. And he also suggested remedial measures that must be taken, that this should be done if you want to avoid any crisis, if you want to avoid a famine. And he mentioned that you must leave the grain in its ear at the time of harvest. So what happens is when the grain is left in the ear, in the ears of the grain, whether it's corn or wheat, whatever, then is preserved for much longer, it has less chance of going off or becoming corrupted. So he told them to leave the grain in its ear at the time of harvest. That would protect it from pests, and they would only remove from its ear the enough grain that they would need for food. And that is, there is no need to starve during this particular period. And he told them, you may consume as usual, but economize a little as well. You will need it. Now, this is according to Imam Ibn Jarir also. So, tazra'una is mentioned as a word here in this ayah, which comes from the word zara'a, which we use in Urdu as well, zara'at. It means to sow, to cultivate, to plant seeds. The word da'ab is used and it means according to usual practice, how you usually do it, just continue as normal. Don't panic. Just remain calm and let people grow their crops. But when it comes to reaping in and harvesting, that is when you need to be a little bit more diligent. So the word hasada is tahsudun. It means coming from hasada. Its ism masdar is hasad and also hisad. It means to reap. It also means to harvest. Now, 7 fat cows and 7 fresh ears of grain in this particular dream that the king had, it meant 7 years of great fertility and plentiful harvest. That is when they should store as much food as possible for 7 years that will come in which there will be difficulty. And how do we come to the meaning of 7 years of difficulty? It is the king seeing 7 thin cows and 7 dry ears of grain, which represent the 7 years of difficulty, when the food already stored in the past 7 years of plenty will be used. So the food that they protect and preserve in the 7 years of plenty will come in use in the 7 years of famine. The word shidad is a plural for shadid, which means hard, difficult, harsh, severe. The word qaddama, taqdeem, it means to do something in advance, to put forward, to precede, do something before its time. Tuhsinun, coming from the word ihsan with the sad, it means to make something strong, to fortify. Hisn means prison. So the word hisn is prison, and we use the word muhsan, mim, ha, sad, noon, and sad is maftuh in fiqh, which means chaste. A chaste person, someone who cannot be accused of what's the word being corrupt. In essence, the word muhsan means something which is inaccessible. Okay, it is well protected. Now we have 7 years of plenty and then 7 years of famine, of difficulty. And then Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam says, ثُمَّ يَأْتِي مِن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ عَامٌ. After the 7 years of famine, there will come 1 year, فِيهِ يُغَاثُ النَّاسُ وَفِيهِ يَعْصِرُونَ. In that the people will be given much rain. And in that year they will press grapes they'll press other fruits and obtain juices from them. So this is mentioned in ayah number 49. So the 15th year will be a year of plenty. That is when food will again be in abundance due to plentiful rains. So this piece of information is additional and it is not related to any dream. The king had a dream of 7 thin cows eating 7 fat cows and 7 fresh and green grains and ears of grain and then 7 dry ones. But he did not see anything beyond that. Prophet Yusuf alayhi is giving him an extra bit of information that after this you have the 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine, of difficulty. After that you will be given a 1 year of goodness, of rain. That is when the rains will come. This is not based on the dream of the king. This is extra information which is given by divine inspiration to Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. He's a prophet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives Ilm al-Ghaib to whom he wills. And Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam was given this additional knowledge together with the interpretation of dream, but this Ilm al-Ghaib also. So this is according to Imam Ibn Jarir at-Tabari. So this 15th year will be the year of goodness, the year of plenty, the year of benefit, the year of advantage, and the year when everything will be either back to normal or better than before, better than the years of plenty. Wallahu ta'ala a'lamu bis-sawab. Inshallah, we will end there, but the lesson that we learn from Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam and his story, subhanallah, what an inspirational story. This is the only story throughout the Quran which is chronological. It begins, goes through, and ends in a sequence that we humans are accustomed to in our general stories. Throughout the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions things in various different places just to keep our attention. But this particular story is something from which we can all derive inspiration. Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, a young person, a young man, never giving up hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the depths of the well being raised in a palace and then being placed into a prison with a false accusation, and then the dream interpretation raising the ranks of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam throughout the kingdom of that particular king, because nobody else was able to interpret his dream except this prisoner named Yusuf. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the ability to understand the noble Quran and implement his teachings in our daily lives. Please do join us again next week at the same time, where we will continue from ayah number 30, inshallah. Jazakumullahu ta'ala khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu.